115-pound women's division is strongly considered the glamour division of women's MMA. It has produced some of the greatest fighters and fights in women's MMA, and the trend will continue at UFC 281 as the current strawweight queen Carla Esparza will put her belt on the line against the ever-dangerous former champ Zhang Weili. Esparza will look to earn a spot on the all-time list with her first ever title defense, while Weili is desperate to bring that gold back to her home country of China. Either way, lots is at stake as these two women throw down in Madison Square Garden. So let's break down the strawweight title fight. Carla Esparza, nickname Cookie Monster, might not instill fear in the hearts of her opponents, but her grinding style of fighting definitely does. The current strawweight queen, Carla Esparza, has a record of 19-6 with 8 finishes. She has reached the top of the strawweight mountain twice, and both times she defeated Rose Namajunas to claim the belt. The first time she became champ was back in 2014, and she would have to wait 2,612 days before getting her hands back on UFC gold in May of 2022. This is the record for the longest time between title reigns in UFC history. It just goes to show you that Esparza's heart and determination as many would have quit in those 2,600 days. Esparza also has the record for the most takedowns in UFC strawweight history and is tied for the most wins in the division history as well. She is currently riding a 6-fight win streak dating all the way back to 2019. In those 6 fights, she has beaten the likes of Alexa Grasso, Mariana Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson, and of course, the former champ herself, Rose Namajunas. However, Esparza is perhaps facing her toughest challenge next, as not only Zhang Weili looked incredible in her last fight, but stylistically, Zhang matches up great with the champ. So it seems like the Cookie Monster will have to dig deep and persevere once again, as we all know she is capable of doing. Zhang Weili. Across the octagon, Esparza will lock horns with the first ever Chinese champion in UFC history, Zhang Weili. Weili has an impressive record of 22-3 with only one woman beating her since her pro debut back in 2013. Of course, that woman being Rose Namajunas, who did take the belt from Weili with a shocking head kick KO in April 2021 and then won a razor-thin split decision against Weili later that year. However, Weili bounced back incredibly well from those back-to-back losses as she KO'd former champ Joanna Jedrzejczyk in June of 2022 to earn herself a shot at the title.
So, Joanna pressures.
Oh my
Zhang
goodness.
spins, wait for it. Back fist to the neck, your ear.
No follow-ups by Weili.
Of course, this wasn't the first time that Weili faced off with Joanna, as the two had the greatest women's fight of all time back in 2020, which happened to be Weili's first and only title defense after she won the belt from Jessica Andrade in just 42 seconds. Now, 18 of her 22 wins have been finishes, and she will look to make it 19 when she faces off with the champ Carla Esparza to try and reclaim what she once held. So, with the background of both fighters set, let's take a deeper look into each of their fighting styles and abilities and see what we can learn. Striking. Weili and Esparza possess vastly different striking games. In terms of stand-up, Weili has a diverse attack. You can catch her throwing heavy body kicks, leg kicks, spinning strikes, including a back fist that KO'd Joanna. She often strikes in combinations, which the stats back up, as she lands 5.78 strikes per minute compared to the UFC average of 3.39. Meanwhile, her opponent and the current champ Esparza is usually focused on closing the distance early and quickly, so she can use her knees and punches in the clinch before attempting a takedown, which is why she has a below average 2.2 strikes landed per minute ratio. However, with limited stand-up offense, Esparza also takes limited damage, as she only absorbs 2.59 strikes per minute. Compare that to Weili's 4.26 strikes absorbed per minute. So even though Esparza doesn't take a ton of damage, it usually depends on her ability to get a takedown. For example, Joanna landed more than 50% of her strikes on Esparza when she struggled to make the fight into a grappling contest. So with Weili's more complete and technical stand-up game, and with Esparza struggling in a kickboxing type fight, we're going to give the striking edge to Weili. Grappling. Wrestling is the bread and butter of the champ, however, it's not that clear-cut if Esparza will have a dominating advantage over her opponent in this realm. Despite Esparza having such a wrestling-heavy attack as evident by her 3.25 takedown attempts per 15 minutes, she only has a 35% takedown accuracy. Most of the time, Esparza finds success in the clinch as she overpowers her opponent along the fence and earns points for control. However, that will be tough to pull out against Weili, who has a devastating clinch, as Andrade learned, and is one of the strongest female competitors in the game. Her wrestling is only improving as well as she has recently started training with Henry Cejudo. Weili already has a 60% takedown defense, and she will be even harder to take down after training camp with Triple C. Weili also showed an improved wrestling game against their common opponent, Rose Namajunas, as Weili took her down 5 times while Esparza could only manage to take Rose down twice. So the grappling advantage might end up going to Weili, but for now we'll call it a draw as the Cookie Monster is a champ for a reason. Submissions. Both Weili and Esparza have several submission wins to their name, however both of them prefer control and damage over submissions. Weili tends to go for a more dominant wrestling position to land hard elbows and punches, while Esparza typically favors positional control and slowly grinding the will of her opponents out of them. So if a submission presented itself, both competitors would take it, but they don't actively hunt for the submission either, which is why this category is a wash as neither holds a big advantage over the other. X Factor. For the Cookie Monster, the X Factor has to be her ability to control Weili. It really all comes down to that for the champ, because if she isn't able to do that, she might find herself in a kickboxing fight where she isn't likely to succeed. But if Esparza can control Weili against the fence, she can take some of the power and speed away from the Chinese superstar. While for the former champ, Weili, the X Factor will be her even improving wrestling game. Wrestling is Esparza's strong suit, so if Weili can take that away from her, she will be in an incredibly dominant position. This means minimal clinch and cage control for Esparza while forcing her in the uncomfortable position of striking from a distance with Weili. Prediction? It might be surprising to learn that a champion is a heavy underdog, but that is the reality of this fight. Esparza is coming in as a plus 265 underdog, while Weili is the heavy favorite at negative 345. If Esparza wants to pull off the upset 2 times in a row and establish herself as one of the greatest strawweights of all time, she needs to show her heart and perseverance and handle the punishment that Weili will dish out and slowly back up Weili and then control her close to a decision win. While for Weili, the game plan has to be pretty straightforward, a lot of footwork so Esparza can't close the distance and keep peppering her with an array of strikes, which eventually might hurt the champ and finish her within the first 3 rounds. So if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell beside it so that you're notified the next time we upload a new video. With that being said, you just watched us break down a potential upcoming strawweight title fight between Carla Esparza and Zhang Weili. We'll see you next time.